Heyo, I'm Christy Rocha, podcast host and content creator, and I am thrilled to welcome you to the Inner Edit. This podcast is all about us, the creators, the storytellers, the visionaries, navigating the ever-changing online world. We are in this together, facing challenges unique to our craft, like burnout, setting boundaries, dealing with negativity, and that oh-so-familiar imposter syndrome. Join me as I chat with fellow creators, therapists, and coaches to explore collaborations, making connections, diving into creating conscious content, figuring out how to maximize our content output, and discovering that mindset magic that keeps us going. Whether you're a content creator seeking resources or just curious about the behind-the-scenes world of digital creators, the Inner Edit is your resource for personal and professional growth in the digital world. We're all going through the same things, so let's talk about it. Hit that subscribe button and welcome to the Inner Edit. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Inner Edit. I am joined today by Kim Young. You might know her from social media as the Dope Black Social Worker. She's also the host of the Revolutionary Hood Rat podcast. Kim is also a licensed therapist, a nationally recognized social worker, and a self-proclaimed expert troublemaker. For many years, Kim's career centered on direct clinical services for youth, families, and communities. But over the last 5 years, Kim has shifted, moving out of direct service in order to make an even deeper impact in the field of social work by focusing on organizational and systemic changes. In our conversation, Kim shares the story of how she accidentally grew this online following, how she has even reluctantly at times accepted her influence, and how she uses humor, authenticity, and creativity to make excellent trouble, as she calls it. Kim knows who she is and who she wants to help, and she understands how her platforms, in addition to her real-life work, are all part of that. And through it all, her priorities are consistent. She intends to increase the visibility of Black social workers. She works to create pathways to opportunities for Black youth and young adults, and she wants to eliminate barriers from dreaming Black youths and young adults to do whatever they want to do. How is she doing it? By being herself. You don't get recognized as Essence Magazine's Essential Hero or Richmond Style Weekly 40 Under 40 by being something you're not, right? Online, across her social media platforms, on her podcast, and most importantly, in real life, Kim shows up. She shows up as only who she is, unapologetically. Today we're talking about how she does it, why she does it, and what it all means to her. So let's meet Kim. Hey Kim, so nice to meet you. Thanks for being here with me today.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Of course. I mentioned in my pitch that I am newer to your community. So I first, actually, before I ask you a little bit about how you got started, I saw your stories today. I am also a Capricorn.
Hey, so you understand.
I get it. When is your birthday?
January 7th.
Okay, I'm the 13th. So for the listeners who will be hearing this much later, Kim posted some stories today about it's 23 days from Capricorn season and we want separate gifts.
Yeah, we deserve.
Yes, wrapped in separate holiday and birthday paper.
Yeah. And we want a birthday cake. Yes.
I know. It's so brutal. And just off air, we were talking about this time of year and how overstimulating it is and everything. And, obviously
we just get forgotten about because I think of all the overstimulation and the giving. I think they just forget about us.
Yes. And you know what? Do you know what? Like, this is the worst because I'm going to say what makes it worse. And I'm going to regret saying it that way. But my daughter's birthday, who's turning 6 this year, her birthday is January 1st.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're like doing Christmas and then we're planning
everything.
Her birthday party because this is the first year that she actually wants like a friend's birthday party.
Aww.
It's cute. But then I'm like, 12 days later is my birthday. And my husband's like, the funds are gone.
Like, forget about you.
And then my son is February, believe it or not. So it's just like
I'm knocking about in the winter. So okay.
We did not plan this well. Anyway. All right. So Take me back. I often find there's usually an interesting story behind social workers, therapists who decide to become public figures because it goes against a lot of, I think, what you're taught in school and all of the things. So take me back to the choice to, or or accident, whatever the case may be, of starting your platforms and how that went, and was it intentional? Was it an accident? Tell me a little bit about how you got started.
Yeah, like even hearing you kind of frame that question, I'm like, nothing about this was intentional. Nothing about me was setting out to do anything that I have done thus far. Everything has been an accident, right? So um, I got online. I got online and just got mad about something and shared what I was mad about, and found out there were thousands of other people in my field that were also mad about those things. And all of a sudden we had community, right?
Yeah.
And much of it to this point has really morphed into creating a and like increasing visibility of social workers, especially like Black and brown ones, like people who look like me, but then also building community, because in this work and in this field, community is critical.
Yeah.
And the pandemic really took a toll
Yeah.
on mental health professionals, where it was important that we found each other and had outlets to be able to remind each other. Especially I kind of take it on as one of the things that I do, is like reminding folks in this work just how human we really are.
Mm.
So all the social media platforms, everything has been an accident, but now I'm incredibly deliberate in how I approach it, because I understand the power of the platform.
Okay. So is your community then less so people following you for kind of mental health education, and more community, it's coworkers, it's colleagues.
Nah, I think it's everything.
It's a
And
mix.
so
Okay.
that's what I really enjoy about the community that I've been able to be a part of online. Is like people are connected to me because they accept the authentic me. Like I
Yeah.
don't have to perform or be anyone that I'm not. So it's like sharing content and information around mental health, behavioral health stuff, social work, social justice stuff, racial equity, but then also the humorous things around like Lifetime channel movies, trash cult documentaries, Tubi content, like all of that, right? So being
Capricorn season.
Capricorn season, like fussing, right? Being able to show the fullness of what is possible
Okay.
for folks that are engaging in this work, because I know that, and I say this to folks that I get to be around, like I needed someone like me when I was early on in my career, and then when I was a graduate student. So I would say the community that I'm a part of is filled of students, practitioners, folks that are curious, people who like fashion and hats and style and trash documentaries and cults and serial killer stuff, right? Like all of
Yeah.
those things I talk about, plus the things that have to do with making good trouble and getting into excellent trouble on behalf of people that are in most need.
Okay. Okay. So this is interesting because a conversation I've been having recently on the show is creators who get online and are in a lane, call it,
Mhm.
mental health, call it motherhood, call it
Yeah.
whatever. They're in this lane, but then as a human being, they're not totally fulfilled by sticking to this niche.
Yeah.
You just listed a ton of things that could potentially be totally unrelated. I'm sure there's
Mhm.
crossover, but like how do you balance that of like do you ever is it ever a concern that you're not super niched, or did that change over time? Did you start
Yeah.
one way and now you have a community so you branch out? Like how did that go?
Yeah, so I think because I didn't sit down and map out a plan for any of this, I don't have what some might consider like overthinking or strategizing
Okay.
to be present online,
Okay.
right? And so that does not exist for me. There was a moment in time, and I would probably say it was probably like 8 or 9 months ago, where I was really like, well, do I need to figure out what the niche is, because the community is growing, folks are kind of looking to me for X, Y, and Z. But then I really just had to be honest with myself and be transparent with those that I'm in community with online around like, hey, things are shifting, especially on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, and like these platforms don't necessarily work in the ways that I want to be connected to y'all. And
Mm,
so another outlet that I'm gonna kind of take on, and that's where really the podcast came from, was like to be able to be more authentic, more myself, more in control of the narratives and how folks get access to the content. Because as you know, like trying to push anything on these social media platforms it's more difficult these days because certain things get to your community and certain things don't. Some the analytics will push to people, some they don't. And
Yeah.
I just don't have time to play those games.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna keep switching up who I am to try to play to a computer. I don't have
Yeah.
time for that.
Yeah. No, yeah. I
Yeah.
I just even in the short time that I've, been watching your account and what you're doing, it feels as a consumer that you are bringing your full self forward. Is that accurate? Are there any parts of you that you deliberately keep off of line?
Nah, I wouldn't say. I mean, of course, you protect your family and
Mhm. Mhm.
my hood rat antics, all my things on, I live a full life. Everything doesn't end up on the internet because
Right.
I'm from the internet era. Like I remember growing up without having access to social media and internet, so I know how to live without it. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
my whole life is not online, but I am.
Yes.
This is me. Like regardless if I'm sitting with somebody face to face, we're in a meeting, we're out, whatever. Like this is who I am.
Yeah.
And so I think folks have picked up. Yeah, I know folks have, for the most part, picked up on that. And I really just kind of move with this understanding that people who want to understand me and see me for who I am, they're going to see me.
Yeah.
Anybody else who's looking for something, they're going to find whatever they're looking for. That's not my business.
Right. Okay. Okay. So you started by sharing that it was pretty accidental, just went
Yeah.
online, started talking about your feelings and it kind of took off. You then said that now you're much more deliberate. What
Mhm.
does that mean and what is the shift? Was there a catalyst for that shift and how did
Yeah.
that go?
I wanted to be able to find more balance in sharing a range of content that wasn't so niche. Like I think
Okay.
folks, a lot of people kind of gravitated towards me with things have been happening within the field of social work, right? And
Okay.
I've been real connected to a lot of those things and doing my best to disseminate information. But then it also was like, well, I have all these other things that I care about, right? All this other stuff that I think folks that are part of this community also care about and want to be able to connect with each other. And what I'm truly grateful for is I believe that I have a community online that takes care of me and takes care of each other. Like I don't got no foolishness and no DMs and no comment sections and none of that stuff.
Hmm.
Like people actually engage with each other in ways that are useful and helpful and educational and supportive. Um,
Respectful.
yeah, and respectful. And I think that has to do with the way I kind of approach the platform and the way I create the content with that in mind. And so I'm more deliberate so that I can manage my time better.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And so someone listening who hears a creator listening who hears that and is like, there's, within your community, there's respect, there's productivity, there's support, and any advice for, the creator sitting there going like, that sounds great, but I don't know how to cultivate that on my own. Like what advice would you give that person?
You got to figure out why you're creating in the first place. Like if you're creating just for it to be consumed, then you're not creating from an authentic and genuine place. And so folks are going to pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could be how people might receive certain content, especially if that creator is not authentic and genuine and why they're even putting it out. And
Yeah.
so people really, and I refuse to get caught up in that and this constant pressure to create, post, post, post. What I already have said several times, well, not even several, because I don't even talk a lot when it comes to posts and stuff. But I have made one post if I don't have nothing to say, y'all, I'm not gonna open up my mouth. I'm not
Yeah.
just gonna create content just to create things. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say things just to say things. So when I open my mouth and speak, it's real deliberate and intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as particularly in this day and age, sounds like an archaic phrase, but like in this day and age, I think that creators really struggle with that
Hmm.
because it is the machine that the more content you create, the more visibility, the more this, the more that. It's like the hustle culture of being
Yeah.
online. But also I think conversation I've been having on here is I connect it to responsibility and privilege of having a platform
Mhm.
because we see so often now, every other week there's a news story, there's something going on, that community, that online, that the internet is demanding a response from
Yeah.
creators. And I see both sides of it. I see the side where you have a platform, you have the ear of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people use it. And then the other side of it is that there's a person behind that account, and they
Mhm.
might need time to process, or time to this, or like you said, if you just don't have something to say, you're not going to, like, I don't know. It's a
It
tricky
is.
thing.
It's a tricky thing, and I haven't necessarily dealt with it, but what I did share might have been last week. It was in a story post, but like I'm fully like people who if they gravitate towards me online, they know what I'm about, right? So like I'm fully aware of all the things that are happening in the world, not all of them, but a lot of the things
Right.
that are happening in the world, good, bad, or otherwise. And I also recognize it's not my place to always say something.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of, and I call them internet cousins. There are a lot of other internet cousins online that are doing that phenomenally.
Yeah.
And I encourage you to go connect with those communities.
Yeah.
My place here is to remind everybody that we are still human and that we can find joy even inside the BS.
Okay.
That's what I'm here to do.
Okay. And just to push you on that one more time, is that the type of thing that you are saying out loud to your community?
Yeah.
Like, here are the resources, go to them. It's not
Yeah.
my place.
Yeah. Like, let me point you over here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Because I think that that is a critical distinction between not saying anything
Oh, yeah.
and offering resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something I spoke with Tomi Obibi about recently, and we were having this discussion, and I was like annoyed. I'm like, why do people demand responses from creators? You don't walk into a grocery store and demand a response from the cash register person on what's going on in Israel right now. Like, we were having this, and like, she really in real time helped me see the difference that you're touching on now, is that if you have the platform, even if you're not going to share your own point of view, put the resources out there that do.
Connect the people, resource, circulate the information. Like, there's power in information. If you have access to it, circulate that back out so folks can get it themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'm curious, now that you've been doing this a few years, how have you seen your life change in relation to being a public figure now?
I mean, I'm already naturally awkward, even though I'm cool at the same time. Incredibly awkward, right? So like it has been strange when you get recognized. Like, that part is strange, but and I'll tell people you're probably incredibly underwhelmed by meeting me because like,
Highly doubt it.
I don't have much to offer but this. So like that part is it's strange, but it's also endearing because it really shows I think for me, it's affirming that I'm walking in the right direction because, whenever I do get a chance to interact with people online or offline, a lot of it has to do with who I am and how I show up is affirming for them. And so that brings me incredible gratitude and joy. So I think my life has definitely changed that way. I also have gotten increased access to like more information, more resources, more power. And because I believe I'm grounded in who I am and not confused about who I am, I know that even if an opportunity comes to me, it's not for me. I know how to circulate that back out. Like, let me connect you to somebody who that's for, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, even when journalists and people reach out, this is not for me. Let
Mm,
me connect you to who I believe can better support and do whatever this is, but speaking opportunities, whatever that might be, or getting information about funding, whatever,
mm,
I'm a troublemaker and social worker at my core, even though I'm online. Like, I'm always thinking about how do I use what I have and what I have access to make sure other people come along with me.
yeah.
And so I use the platform responsibly, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, just to go back what you're saying about someone seeing you in person and being perhaps underwhelmed, just in the short time that I've, again, seen your community, been on in your atmosphere, and now here talking to you for just 20 minutes, I think what comes either really naturally to you or that you've worked on over time, just that self awareness and self-assuredness, like, I think I think that's very, inspiring, and I think that that is truly what attracts people because it's hard for most to
It
be
is.
that self-secure and aware, and it takes a ton of work, and so
Yeah. Hard work that a lot of people don't want to do.
yeah,
And like even when, folks as who are trying to figure out how to build their own online communities or presence, like, what are the steps? What do I need to do? I'm like, I'm not the one that's gonna lie to you.
yeah,
There's no blueprint for this.
yeah, right,
There's no blueprint for it. And so I think to your point, there are people who are trying to get to, I guess, where I am and other folks are without being secure in who they are as a person. And
yeah,
that's gonna make it real difficult.
yeah. I even find that for as self-aware as I am, sometimes I joke my therapist and I joke that I'm, like, self-aware to a fault, um, but I really don't know that online I have truly found my voice, and I feel that in the sense that when I go to post, I still have that moment of, like, "Does anybody care about
Yeah,
this?" You
that's real.
know?
I deal with
Yeah,
that too. That's real.
yeah,
That's real. But then, I ask myself, does anybody care? But then I'd be like, this ain't about them. Like there's somebody that
yeah,
this is gonna support, or there's somebody that this will be for, even if it's not for
right,
whoever.
for
Yeah.
everybody. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you when I asked you how your life has changed, you mentioned a lot of really incredible positive things. Has anything come out of this experience that has surprised you that you wouldn't have thought possible through this?
Um, you know what? Genuine relationships.
Mm.
Like with people that I've actually never met in person.
I know. I know.
Right?
I
Like, I
know.
think that is probably the
It's
most
funny, right?
shocking,
Yeah.
surprising thing. That is, I have some really dope relationships with folks that I have never met in real life. A couple that I actually, we have met in real life, and like that has been real shocking but endearing at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was joking, talking with Chastity Holcomb the other day, interviewing her, and we were saying how funny it is that you could be like have a relationship with someone for years and like never know what their legs look like.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I know. Okay. All right. So just to close out this question, anything come from it that has been less than favorable, challenging?
I I say that the challenge is probably associated with me continuing to learn what I'm capable of, right?
Mm,
Like, of course, with increased visibility comes all these other challenges you never imagined you had to navigate, and
yeah.
I've been able to navigate them, right? So I wouldn't see it as like a negative. I've just learned and utilized more skills that were either lying dormant or that I didn't know I had,
Hmm.
and been able to really show myself what I'm capable of. And a lot of it has to do with I have some phenomenal boundaries. I have phenomenal boundaries, and I'm
Yeah.
really proud of myself for that. And
Yeah.
this, like having these platforms, has really shown that.
Yeah. Okay. So if you wouldn't mind, give me an example or two of what your boundaries are as it relates to your platforms, because I know creators struggle with this a ton.
Yeah.
If any examples that come to mind that.
Yes. I mean, some of the immediate ones, like I don't receive any notifications on any device.
Okay. Good
That's
one.
one of the immediate ones.
Yeah.
I only respond to comments and DMs when I'm in front of a computer. That's another
Interesting.
one. I don't do it on the phone. Um, I do not feel obligated to respond to every DM or comment. That's another one. Um, but I'm not but and I'm transparent around why I don't. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just overwhelming.
Yeah. And so it seems like those boundaries have made it such that you're actually doing very little in the palm of your hand. It's like you have set
Yeah,
working hours at your computer, which includes responding to comments and DMs.
yeah.
Yeah.
I only do it on the computer, and I don't get any notifications on any devices.
Yeah. Does
That's how
that
I maintain some sanity.
yeah, no, it feels like that would allow you to maintain more presence in your day.
Yeah.
Yeah. with that in mind, do you feel like, yeah, I'm just gonna ask you a question and I feel like I can already answer it.
You can ask it.
I was just gonna say, do you ever have concern over the boundaries that you have in place limiting your growth or limiting your ability to increase access and visibility to what you're doing?
I don't.
No,
I
right. I
probably
know you
had in the
don't. I know
past.
you don't.
Yeah, I probably
No.
have in the past, but I certainly don't, because it goes back to like whoever's supposed to see me or be a part of what I'm growing, we're growing, will see me and want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I'm really of the mindset I'm not working hard anymore. I've been working hard for a very long time.
Yeah.
And when I made a commitment to not work hard, and when I say that, like I want folks to understand me not working hard is somebody still working at their best.
Mm,
Right. So I'm not working hard anymore.
yeah.
I'm going with grace and ease, and that includes online.
Yeah. I noticed on your website that you have committed to publicly retiring
Yes,
from social work at by
yes,
2030.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Cur Yeah, no, that I mean, I feel like I've never seen that before. I've never seen that put on a website as like, is that an accountability thing? Like what?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an accountability thing, and it's a shifting a narrative in this field. And numerous people, countless at this point, have told me they never heard anyone say that they can retire before I said it. And I was
Yeah.
like, huh? But then I thought about it too. Nobody told me, because when you get into the work, right, they kind of sell it to you like it's this real noble profession and you have to sacrifice your everything to be
Yeah.
able to engage in it. And you have to stay grounded and committed in the work for a lifetime. And I said, huh?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I'm not doing this forever. This is not possible.
Yeah.
It is not possible to do this forever. And so I am fully committed. And ultimately, I don't want to know what burnout is. I don't want to get to the point where I am, because I love and I care about people so much. I don't want to stay here so long where I start hurting people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it is accountability to make sure I step away, I step aside, and let the next generation move in and figure out, how they
Right.
want to shake and build and grow the field.
Right. Yeah. I just like is everything you're saying is I just keep seeing like goals. Like it's just like you know what you want, you're saying it, and you're actually living and breathing it. And
I don't know what I'm doing though. I just want people to understand that.
what's that?
I still don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, fair,
Like,
fair. But does this is this who you are, a personality from the time you're 4 or 5 years old, or is
yes.
this learned behavior that you've just
Ah,
been like,
ooh.
I need to implement this now?
And now we should probably call my mom or something. No, like I've been like this for a mighty long time.
Okay.
But I give it, all contributions to my mom, because she allowed me to be a curious, and thoughtful and kind of, not chaotic, but like chaotic controlled child. Like she just let me figure out my world.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so yeah, I've been like this for a long time.
And I ask only because it feels like I wanna, like, bottle up bottle it up and sell it, you know what I mean? Like, I think only because I hear so many creators, like, struggling with so much of what
I know.
feels just, like, very secure for you, you know? And I wanna help people get there.
They got to do some work.
Yeah.
And a lot of that work has to do with releasing these desires and expectations. Like when I say I don't know what I'm doing, is this understanding I'm on a continuous journey. Like I get up and I have my own practice every single day in terms of how I'm going to show up in this world. And one of those things that I reflect on every day is like acknowledging that desires breed pain. And when they come up for me, I work to acknowledge them and I let them go. And so
Mm,
it could be that a lot of creators have these desires for more followers, more contracts, more marketing conversions, all this other type of stuff, right? Engagement. And that is causing some level of suffering.
yeah,
If that's like doubt, feeling stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, sad, whatever it might be, gotta work to let that stuff go.
yeah,
Because that is
yeah,
also going to impact the art, right? Or the content that you're attempting to put out into your communities.
right. I know. I like, the community is they're no fools, like, they can see right
They can see it.
through bullcrap.
Yeah, they can see it.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. So you correct me if I'm wrong, you're actually no longer serving one-on-one clients.
Nah, not
Right.
anymore.
Okay. So you're consulting, you're teaching, you're lecturing,
I'm
you're
still working full time because I'm a social
yes.
worker. So I
Right.
got a
Okay.
full-time job and still running the business.
Okay. So interestingly enough, I feel like a lot of the creators I meet that start in a field, right? The goal is to eventually be doing similar to what you're doing, like almost more of a like just a person as a business, a brand. Like eventually it's a podcast, it's a book, it's this, it's that. Like
Okay.
here you are announcing you want to be done with that by 2030. Like what are you going to do after that? What do you want to do? Where do you see
Man, I can't
this
even.
going?
And that's the most beautiful part. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going, but I know that I'm gonna get there because by the time that it arrives, it'll be the moment for it to happen. So
Yeah.
I'm not concerned because I have no control over it. So I'm not gonna concern myself with things I have no control over. I don't know
Mm,
where I'm gonna end up, but I know like in these moments in time right now, I can put in some level of work and continue to go down the path that feels right for me and that makes the greatest sense for me, and that only do things that don't get on my nerves.
yeah.
So not even about like just do the things that bring you joy.
No.
Everything is not gonna bring you joy, right? But like I don't want to do nothing that gets on my nerves, and so like that's where I am right now.
Awesome. Okay. So are with that in mind, have there been either platforms as a whole, aspects of creating that did get on your nerves that you've stopped doing, that you've shut down?
Yeah, I think the biggest one, and that it didn't necessarily get on my nerves. What I didn't want to happen, and what I'm getting to is like I stopped doing online webinars, and they
Mm,
were incredibly popular. Folks loved them. Was able to grow and engage with a number of people, like even across the globe, not just here in the United States. But I stopped doing them because I didn't want to go down this pathway of like you do the webinars and then you get a curriculum and then you have an online. I don't, that's not me.
yeah.
That's not me. But then, when you talk to strategy, like these brand strategists and people who are trying to tell you, well, you need to get the online modules and get it recorded. And then like, I'm not, that's not me.
Okay.
So I would say like, that is the thing that I stopped doing and really pivoted more to like lectures,
Okay.
to keynotes, to presentations, because I like to be amongst people. Yeah, I can go create a curriculum and sell a little workbook, but if folks in my community know if I ever create a curriculum and sell a little workbook, I'm probably just trying to marry somebody's scam, right? Like that's just not who I am.
It just all keeps coming back to the self-awareness piece.
Yes, that's
Eh,
not me.
yeah, yeah. And I think that there's so many messages that, like I was saying earlier, just like the hustle culture, the go, 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 the do this, the do that. And I totally understand what you're saying. It's like you started doing these webinars and then all of a sudden it had to be a whole like university under it. It's like
Wait.
we overcomplicate things. It's like you see someone who likes to paint and then someone's like, oh, make an Etsy shop and sell it. It's like maybe they just want to paint.
Pain. Mhm.
Yeah.
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 So that's where I'm at. Like
Yeah.
mm-mm.
Okay. So how, excuse me, how, if at all, has your online presence impacted your like personal in real life relationships?
I would say,
Family, friends. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, I would say it. I'm uncertain.
Mm,
I'm uncertain. I know there are people who think bigger of me than I think of myself, and so there are times I have to sit with that, right? Like, they also have people that push back and challenge me in ways that I need to be challenged, because I had a really difficult time accepting the influence that I have.
Mm,
Difficult time. Like I was denying that for a good year. I was
mm,
denying that for a good year. Just most recently through like people who love and care about me, like people in my world was like, you got to start running from it. So I think if anything, it shifted relationships for me to listen better to
mm,
people who are in my life in a way that I hadn't before. I think it I think having like increased visibility sometimes makes it difficult to form new relationships, because folks may have an idea, believe they have an idea about who you are based off of what you share online. So that
right.
I would say it's that. But those are like the two big ways that I can kind of think about at this time.
Yeah. That's interesting because to say that you denied your influence,
Mhm.
when I feel like when I read your bio, when I read your, just website, when I scan your social media, it feels, now the word is coming to me, more of advocacy, but they're connected in a way. It's like
Yeah.
interesting. It's interesting that if it comes across to me that that would be your why, and yet you resisted it.
Oh yeah. For a long time.
Yeah.
For a long time. Hmm.
Why do you think?
I'm not the attention person.
Mm,
Right? I'm not the attention person. I'm not the talking person. I'm the person that is behind the scenes, like building the things that other people see.
okay.
Right. So, like, that has been a big part of just how I have existed for a very long time. Is like, and one of my, just like as a sidebar, one of my favorite things, like when people come up to me, especially in the community where I do a lot of work, and they're talking to me about stuff, and I'm like, oh, I did that. Like, I'm the one that built that thing,
Oh,
created that thing.
interesting.
You know
Like
what I mean? Because like
you mean
that's who
like
I've been.
you mean like just to put context to it, you mean like maybe like a system or
If it's a program
a
or like brought
program
some
or something.
funding or like, an
Interesting.
initiative, all kind of stuff. I'd be like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but so that's good though, in the sense that I think that a lot of the time the creators that are most well received are the ones that aren't doing it for the notoriety.
Nah.
But
I don't talk about a lot of stuff. There are a
yeah.
lot of creators that talk about too much stuff.
Yeah.
Their communities are like, you need to shut up. Keep
Yeah.
talking.
I know. It's a fine line. It's a fine line.
Like, you better take a note out of Issa Rae and Beyonce's book. They talk to us when they want to talk to us, and we sit and we wait to listen.
I know, it's so true. It's so
Like,
true. Yeah. Do less.
do less.
Do less. Yeah. Because you know what? As a consumer, like I'm not looking at it every day. Like and if you miss a day, I don't notice.
Exactly.
I notice when you want me to notice.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a good lesson. Okay. So going on piggybacking off of the in-person relationships, advice for cultivating those digital relationships. I find one of the biggest challenges with creators that they feel lonely. It's very isolating to be kind of like behind the screen. On one hand, we're creating stuff that goes out to a bunch of people, but we don't actually like know all of those people. Like it as at some point they're just numbers. And so any advice for how you've cultivated those relationships, whether it be from audience or colleague?
I would say I probably have an advantage given my profession.
Mm,
Um, you know, I'm not, well, by nature, like even before I found social work, I've always been a relational person. I've always been curious and like human experiences and stories. I'm nosy, which means I want to know about like you and what you got going on, right?
okay.
And so like because that is already inside of me, it does make it a bit easier to think about the type of relationships or how to begin communicating, to begin,
Right.
initiate a relationship. So I already have those skill sets.
Okay.
So I don't want to assume that everybody's coming in with that base level understanding of actually how to form a relationship. That's
Fair.
actually a skill you have to be taught.
Yes.
It doesn't come natural to a lot of people. Um, but I would say in terms of some advice on how to do that, I think you know content or style or whatever you kind of attracted to when you see their profiles online. And then if they're kind of hitting you up, if it starts in a comment section or in the DM and you begin to chat from there, anything is possible. But I would say, like, don't shy away from potentially forming online relationships if it feels right, if
Yeah.
it feels natural, and if it doesn't feel forced, and if you want to.
Right.
And if you want to. And so I had no idea. And thank you for sharing that, like, creators are feeling lonely. That actually makes me think about a number of like therapists who are probably also feeling that same thing. And then like that crossover between therapist and creator.
Yeah.
And so just like this increased sense of loneliness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it's like I said, it's the content is out there for public consumption, but the person making it is alone in their office.
Yeah. And they might be alone in other ways too. And so
Yes.
I got a whole life offline.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There are some people, and I understand that their life is online. Baby,
Yes.
my life is not online.
Yeah.
Got a whole life offline.
Yeah. I know and it goes back again to that, like, that machine aspect, the
Mhm.
belief that we have to be engaged, creating, in touch, responding all the time.
The time.
It's like, shut it
Mm-mm.
off. Yeah.
It's not possible. It's unrealistic expectations, mismanaged expectations that are causing some form of internal suffering that we have control over.
Yeah. Yeah, expectations. That's a good point. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it's a good,
It's unrealistic.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm. I'm I'm thinking of myself right now, so I'm like processing. I'm like, yeah, I gotta adjust my expectations here for this account and this thing, and I think I would enjoy it more if that were the case.
And that's what I really wanted to get back to. I used to hate going online for a little minute. And I was like, well, that don't make no sense because I'd be having fun. Like I used to have fun,
Yeah,
right? When I was able to kind of post online and be more engaged. And I had to get back to that.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Anything that you wish your community knew more about or understood about being, the person and the voice behind this handle that doesn't often get talked about, or anything that if you just had them sitting in front of you, you'd be like, listen, you need to understand this about what it's like to do this.
So it's not even about what it's like to do it. What I will say is like, I'm incredibly honored that I'm trusted to
Mm,
do it. Right. So it's not even about the doing, it's the fact that people have positioned and trust me. Um, they're engaged with me, they protect me in ways that I see and don't see.
yeah.
And all of those things I am incredibly grateful for, and I'm honored because folks don't have to do that. Like people could get online and be real butts, right? But
Yes.
like I don't have that experience online. I
Hmm.
do not have that experience online, and I'm really grateful and honored for the community that I'm a part of because they really do take care of me. Because one of the things I push is like you got to take care of yourself and your heart so that we can take care of each other. And so, because I believe that is happening and it's reciprocal, it really gives me a great warm fuzzy feeling, and I'm honored that they allow me to do that.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, it's one really incredible aspect. And this is a small point to what you're saying. And what you're saying is so much bigger than this. But I even noticed on, your stories today or yesterday asking, like, anyone in here know of someone at Cal University,
And
da,
I
da,
got
da,
my
like,
contact too.
did you? Good for you.
I got my contact,
Yeah,
yeah.
like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Like, someone out there wants to help you and support you and is like, "Hey, I have a contact. Here it is," you know?
Yeah. I
That's
don't take
very
none of that
cool.
for granted. Like, if I
Yeah.
ask for help, and that's another reason I don't use my platform to be shared, and no disrespect to people that do it, like all these links asking for things.
Mm,
Because like if I'm gonna ask for it, it's because there's a bigger kind of
right,
thing that we're trying to get done.
right.
And so when I do ask for it, because they know, oh, Kim don't be asking for stuff. Like what's going on? There's
Mm,
like this willingness to want to help me.
yeah. Yeah, because that's interesting too, because it is a very often one-sided. relationship where the creator is giving a lot. And it's giving for free. It's giving a lot of either educational content, entertaining content, like all of it. It's giving, giving, giving. And that's really cool perspective to see and feel when it comes back.
Yeah, and you use it with intention.
Right.
And I get like there are creators who, compensation. I'm all for it all day long. Trust me, I understand those. But I think there's compensation outside of just money.
Yes.
That you really are plugged in and tapped in with your community, you could reap multiple benefits.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. You've answered this, I think, in a few different ways, but I haven't asked it directly. So I'm curious if there's anything else that comes up for you. What have you learned about yourself through this journey of content creation and putting in your platforms?
That I'm actually very creative. Yeah, I think that's like I have a lot of dope ideas and content and like dope ideas and content ideas that I want to be able to bring to life. So I've definitely learned how creative I am, and I have the ability, if I don't have the skill sets to do the things, I have the skill sets to connect to the people who can help me do the things.
Yeah.
So I've learned that. I've also learned like I've always been cool. I've always been cool. Just didn't necessarily understand it. And I'm not saying like cool in the sense of however people receive that word, but cool in the sense like I've always been a grounded and level-headed person. I've always been a kind person. I'm not nice by any means, but I'm incredibly kind.
I feel that.
I'm not nice by any means, but like I am incredibly kind. And so like I've been all of these things, and through being a content creator and being able to connect with folks in this community, it's like to have it shown back to me or shared back to me is to receive like the affirmation and the validation to match my like internal validation, right? So like the internal validation is matching external validation, but I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. That means I'm
Very
moving
cool.
in
Yes.
sync and like things are making sense, right?
Yes.
And so that's probably the biggest things that I've learned from doing this.
Yeah. I feel like that in sync aspect that you're talking about it's so major. Like, and we underestimate it. And I think it actually, I don't want to say that those things are infrequent, but they're unique. And they're it's like when you feel it, and it's like that click moment, and it's just like the coolest thing ever. And then at least for me, I like just am like striving to like feel that all the time. Like when things are just aligned.
Yeah, when things just make sense.
Yeah.
Things just make sense.
Okay. Awesome. Any tech things that you use to create that you're like, this is like the one thing that I love that makes things a little bit easier for me that I want to share, or you just like straight up through the apps and like fly by the seat of your pants?
I mean, it's probably what a lot of folks already use anyway. I definitely use CapCut.
Okay.
CapCut keeps me sane for the most part in terms of like creating the digital content. Of course, with the podcast, I have an RSS feeder, which a lot of folks, if they're in that space, they know about that. I most recently just invested in a new camera.
Okay.
Sony something. Don't make me tell y'all no story. It was, I think it's a Sony ZV.
You don't have to get that technical. It's okay.
That's what we got. I think that's what we got going on. But I don't really do anything that is too difficult.
Okay.
Yeah, try to keep it as simple as possible. I would love to be able to get to the place of like I'm going back to I don't want to work that hard anymore. I want to be able to get to the place to have like production. I want to pay people to do what they do well.
Yep. Yep.
That's
I
what
know.
I'm working towards.
Yeah, it's like who can do this better than I can?
Yeah.
Who can do it better, faster, easier? Like,
and you're
yep.
And how much?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And the nature of what you do, you're still going to be there
yeah,
with the mic or the camera or whatever it
whatever it
is,
is.
but then you're going to hand it all off, and
You got
someone
it.
else is going to edit it and do all the things.
Yep.
Yes, I know.
Yep.
All right, Kim. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask you and you didn't get to talk about today that you wish I had, or anything lingering on your heart, mind, or soul that you want to leave fellow creators with today?
feel what is coming up for me right now and thinking about folks in the creating space, we really got to sit with the questions of who are we creating content for and why.
Mm.
And if we're creating content for external validation because we're not giving ourselves internal validation, you're never going to find whatever you're looking for. So
Okay.
you're not going to find what you're looking for until you're able to give it to yourself first, right? So I think it's important when it comes to creating anything that we're not creating from a place of void and deficit, but we're creating from a place that we actually have it to give. Because when we create and post, we're giving something, we're offering something up. But if you're offering something up, but you don't even have it to give in the first place, then what purpose is it really serving? And who is it really supporting and helping? And so I really just would encourage folks who are in this creator space to really be clear about who you're creating for, why you're creating for. And if you're not giving yourself internal validation first prior to creating and sharing whatever you're sharing with the world, they're not receiving what you think they're receiving. And what you're attracting is not what you deserve.
Yep. Boom. Yep. I'm not going to. But that like literally just like punched me in the gut. Like I really almost just like, when I say I'm not going to, I meant I was almost felt like I was going to tear. Because you're so right. And I think, at least for me, just to have my own little coaching session here, is I have like I have all of the who and the why on paper, and I really believe it. But but without the self validation, it doesn't mean as much.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm in that, I'm having one of those like two things can be true moments where
Multiple
like,
truths exist.
yeah, whereas
Yeah.
like all of the reasons why and the people out there, like I really believe in it, and I really believe in people, and I really believe in helping people.
Mhm.
But like the Capricorn type 3 on the Enneagram, all that, like the performer in me, the achiever in me,
Yeah. Love to
absolutely,
achieve.
yep, absolutely knows that
Yeah.
I am measuring a level of worth by
Mhm.
the numbers.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And
that's real.
so, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's real.
Cause
You
yeah,
know,
cause it's funny. Like it always catches me a little bit off guard when it gets like deep for me like that. You know?
not a Capricorn having feelings.
I know. I know. And I think even for as much as I like preach, content creation is a job. It's like we're human, da 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 da. I still, and I've shared this recently, I still even struggle with my own sort of old biases and old stigmas around social media that are like, oh, I'm quote unquote like just making videos, or like just
Yeah.
making
So
graphics.
minimizing. Yeah.
I'm minimizing it. And so then when something like hits me deep like that, it's like, oh, okay.
Mhm. It's more than just. You're
It's more
sharing,
than
like you're
just.
making an offering to people. We want to make sure
Yes.
we're offering because we actually have it to give and we want to give it. Because remember, a part
Yes.
of giving is to not expect anything in return. And so for content creators, it might be giving with the hope of returning more followers or likes or impressions or whatever. You can't
Yeah. You can't. It's
create
like,
from that space.
yes. Okay. All right. I know what I'm talking about in therapy next week.
Ah!
Thank you, Kim. Oh my
Look,
goodness.
I might be out of direct service, but it's still in me. It's still in me.
Well, Kim, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you. And I just thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that was epic. Kim is epic. And as epic as it was, I also got a bit of a gut punch in a way that I didn't know I needed at the end there. But it was good. It's always good. It's always such a good thing when you get hit between the eyes, metaphorically speaking. I don't know about you, but at this point in my journey, I really need those reminders. And if you missed it, I'll reiterate it here. Kim said, if we're creating content for external validation because we're not giving ourselves internal validation, then we are never going to find what we're looking for. Yeah, mic drop. That's hitting really home. And I think that's a reality check for every content creator. Sure, the likes and the comments and the shares help get your message seen by more people. But if we're measuring everything just by numbers, then we're missing something. We're not really getting it. We're not really doing it. I don't know if I want to say right, but there's just a really big, important element missing to our content. Because, like I always say, there's someone behind the handle. And there's also someone behind that little thumb. So are you doing it for the thumb or for the heart? How do you like that? Are you doing it for the numbers, for others, or for yourself? And whatever your answer is, know this, truly, from deep down in my soul, there is no judgment. I get it all. Seriously, my answer changes from day to day. Sometimes I'm chasing numbers more than I care to admit right now. But when we put something up just to meet whatever our quota is in our minds of how often, or, if we're doing enough trends or whatever it is, when we're shoulding all over our content, it shows. And on the flip side, when we put something up that is intentional and deliberate and from our heart, that also shows. And that is when the real connections are made and the real growth happens. And it's interesting because I had a video on TikTok blow up recently, and it was such a silly video about my kitchen mat. And it wasn't done with a lot of intention, and it wasn't from the heart. It was just a silly, trendy thing that's going on TikTok right now. And so it's hard. It's hard to say these things, right? But as fun as that is, and as awesome as it feels for that video to be like popping off and my account growing and seeing all the likes, I know that there's not a lot of people within those likes and those views that are there for me because they don't know me. And so the videos where I'm talking about my passions and what I'm doing here with this podcast may get less views and less likes, but the people that are liking it are actually resonating with something that's coming from me. And so it's hard. My whole point is that it's hard. Do I want my videos to go viral like this one about my kitchen mat that's at this moment in time has 2.5 million views? Yeah, of course. But do I also see how if I put up a video about wellness for content creators and one other creator comments and resonates with it and feels seen that day, is like, I want that too. And now ideally it would be the video that helps content creators feel seen and heard in their wellness journeys. That would be the one that gets 2.5 million views. But the point is that we have to keep trucking along until that happens, because this is the whole thing with this. We can't control it. We can't. We can just only keep trying and doing our best and putting out there what feels right to us. And although I didn't post this video about my kitchen mat with any intention or from the heart, I did post it with just because that was what was happening in front of me. It reminded me of a trend going on, and it is my real life. It is my kitchen mat. So anyway, I don't know. You get what I'm saying. But anyway, let me continue with Kim. One thing about Kim is that online and off, she is self-aware. She knows herself and literally cannot show up as anyone or anything else. And that is so evident. I saw it in interviewing her. You can see it on her social media platforms if you're in her community. And I really believe that this authenticity is her superpower, because her community in response is so respectful and supportive and uplifting, and all that other crap that goes on has no place there. So nobody even bothers with it. And Kim's boundaries are a big part of this. And this is a lesson I really want everyone to leave here with, that Kim has incredible boundaries and she doesn't bend. Even though she shares her whole self on her platforms, she doesn't bring work home with her. She only speaks when she has something to say. She shares resources when she can. She connects others when they need it. But she stays in her lane. One thing that surprised me about Kim was her reluctance to accept her influence. I mentioned earlier that this whole online platform thing kind of happened by accident for her, and I'm sure many of you can relate to that. I need to see and validate those of you that this isn't happening to by accident, that you're actually putting a lot of time, energy, and strategy behind it. But either way, when you get to that point of influence, it can be hard to accept, even if that's what you came here for in the first place. But that's when walking the walk really matters. Kim had a difficult time with it because she was used to working behind the scenes, and now she's front and center. But she's remained walking the walk. I think that's what I want everyone to take away with this. Walk the walk. Show, don't tell. Influence, and because now we seem to automatically associate that with influencers, can seem kind of icky, but it really isn't, and it can be beautiful. Go check out Kim's community if you aren't already a part of it, because it's not icky at all, and it is truly her. It's truly a reflection of her. You can find Kim, who she is, reflected all throughout her podcast, her services, everything in her community, and that's because she doesn't bend on who she is, and she walks the walk. All right, so you can find all about Kim on her website. I'll link everything about her in her social media in the show notes. Kim, darn rock star. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for listening. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. To learn more about me, my world, all the things going on, head over to ChristieRocha.com. Bye.